last week, and then looking ahead to this week?
Thought last week's game was a good opportunity for our football team to go on the road. Anytime you go on the road, it's always a challenge to adjust to sleeping in a hotel, getting out of your own routine. So obviously for us to have a chance to compete for a conference championship, we have to learn how to play on the road. So I thought that was a good opportunity for us to open up on the road before we started conference play. But I thought the guys competed well. They didn't quit, and as a football coach, I think that's the main thing you want to see is that your team competes for 4 quarters. And I thought they did that. Obviously, we made some mistakes, had some self-inflicted wounds and things that didn't give us an opportunity to win the game. 4 turnovers on offense is unacceptable. Block punt obviously does nothing to help your chances to win. And then 2 missed field goals after going 6 for 6 week 1. You turn around and miss 2. The first one being a 25-yarder. So again, have to clean up those things. Have to do a better job of being consistent from week to week. I think our guys understand that. And I think after a loss, you learn a lot more about yourself a lot of times in defeat than you do in victory. So I think this team will grow up a lot this week, and we'll really start to define who we are as we head into competition more similar to who we are at the FCS level.
One of the things it seemed like last year Ryan Simmons did struggle with at times was that consistency with the interceptions after coming off a game like he did against Troy. What do you look for as a coach in this game against Jackson State from him?
Well, again, I think the message to him is always the same. And we talk about driving the car. Basically, that means, the offense is built for his success if he does the little things, if he gets the ball to the playmakers. He doesn't have to go out and try to win the game for us. I don't say he doesn't go in to try to not lose it, but at the same time, the numbers, the success comes when he's efficient with the football. When he doesn't force things. And the interception last week, the first one he threw was a forced pass on the scramble. Just throw the ball out of bounds or allow us to either punt it or line up and snap another play. So again, for him, it's about not trying to take those chances when they're unnecessary. There will be times where he has to fit a ball in tight windows, which he's capable of doing. But again, you have to be smart and strategic as to when to do that. And a couple of times the other day, he forced some passes that he shouldn't have forced. So we had a long talk. Ryan's a resilient guy. I know he'll bounce back and respond in a positive way. And he'll continue to be the unquestioned leader of this team. And he accepts that mantle. And again, the quarterback position, you don't always play well. Sometimes you don't perform so well, but again, you have to bounce back and always show yourself resolve to be able to continue to lead even when the chips are down.
Coach, I think one thing you said after the game was that, a big loss like this can, refocus the guys and get them to where they want to pay attention and listen a little bit more. Have you seen maybe some of the guys come in and get some early film this week to be able to kind of refocus, relock into, getting back on track this week?
Well, the good thing for us is we went right back to work on Sunday and brought the guys in, showed them the film, and then brought them back out that evening in practice. And the attitudes were high, the enthusiasm was high. And that's something you want to see. Anytime you have a tough defeat, especially a lopsided defeat such as that, you want to see how the guys respond. And had a long team meeting about adversity. That's one thing that in this program we continue to talk about and stress is adversity. And then the second one is accountability. And so we saw both of those things kind of come into fruition last week. The adversity of facing a bigger opponent in their stadium, and came out on the opposite side of the victory margin, and then the accountability of everyone. Let's look at ourselves and see what we did to either contribute to the loss or if we didn't do enough to help the team win. And so I think the guys are starting to understand that, and we talked about that. Every great program that had to come from quote unquote down in the dumps had that defining moment. I think Alabama, before Nick Saban got there, they lost Louisiana Monroe his first year. And they had a moment when they decided as a football team, as a family, that enough's enough. We're going to move forward the right way. Same thing that we have to do. We have to find it. Hopefully this is our defining moment. Last week was our defining moment till our team decides that it's time to come together, do the little things that Coach preaches every single day, and we'll see our success continue to improve.
Coach, how important is it to be able to take advantage of now a 2-game home stretch, to be able to come back and get 2 games and hopefully kind of rebound and take advantage of, the stretch like this?
I think it's critical. One of our team goals this season was to go undefeated at home. We have 6 opportunities to do that. Well, we took care of challenge number 1, the first game, against Fort Valley State. This is challenge number 2. Tough Jackson State team that's coming in, who were probably a little frustrated that they didn't get to play last week. You know, they traveled all the way to Memphis and had to cancel the game due to poor weather. So I'm sure they'll be excited to come in and play. They're familiar with our coaching staff, most of us, because they've gone against us for the last 6 years. So I don't think they'll be intimidated, but again, it's a great opportunity for our football team to come back home in front of our great home crowd and hopefully play well enough to get a win and continue our goal of being undefeated at home in our quest for the MEAC championship.
Coach, you talked briefly about the missed field goals after going perfect from last week. Do you think that was a mental thing or some sort of misexecution on the field, and how are you going to fix it going forward?
I think it's just lack of execution. Most of the errors in Saturday's game were lack of execution. Now, whether the mental part plays into that, that's another story. I think there's a level of focus and attention to detail that you have to have, whether you're at home or on the road. And I think that's something that our guys are learning. Regardless of whether you're in the confines of your own home or in someone else's backyard, you have to focus on the details and fundamentals. And if you ask Ali what happened, he'll tell you that he took his head off the ball. You know, whereas at home he kept his head down through the full swing of his kick. And so continue to do the little things right, focus on details. And again, the uprights didn't change. The field turf level didn't change from Bragg Stadium to Detroit, Veteran Memorial Stadium. Our execution change, and that's something that we have to continue to do is practice consistent execution at our level.
Coach, what are some things that the defense may need to work on going against Jackson State?
We just have to learn. We have to get lined up and just tackle. You know, again, we give up big plays when we're not lined up correctly, and we missed a couple of tackles that allow big runs. But really, it's more so about alignment. If we can get lined up, everyone knows where they're supposed to be. Get the call in. We've shown the 2 games that we can be pretty dominant on that side of the ball. When we don't get lined up, we can show that we're susceptible to big plays. And so for us, it's just consistency and alignment and communication fundamentals.
Past 2 seasons with Prairie View, beating pretty handedly. What kind of advantage does it give you and give this team, having faced that team several times before?
I don't know if it gives us an advantage, the success that we've had against Jackson State the last few years, because it's a new year. We're at a new place. I think our familiarity as coaches with Jackson's scheme may help us in this situation because we don't have much to evaluate them off of. They only played 1 game, which was against an FBS opponent in Southern Miss. And so being that they didn't get to play last week, they're introducing a new offensive coordinator in Hal Mummy. I think our familiarity with what their identity is, what their players look like, will help the coaches, maybe not the players so much, but it may be able to give us an advantage in scheming because we do have a general understanding of the personnel that they have because we faced them over the last few years.
From seeing them, what do they do well?
Again, I think they're a team that they play hard as well. They didn't back down from Southern Miss, and there were times where, just like our game against Troy last week, that Southern Miss had problems moving the football against them. They're very active up front, a lot of size and athleticism. Again, they're a big physical football team. So from a physical standpoint, they look like a MEAC football team. And they'll be, I hate to say as good looking as anybody will see this year, but they have a lot of size, they have a lot of strength, and I think they use that to their advantage. So for us, it's about maximizing our speed, getting on the perimeter, winning blocks on the perimeter, and about us just doing little things of being efficient in our offensive passing game, being able to create running lanes for the running backs in the run game, and defensively getting lined up. And if we can do that and get back to playing solid on special teams like we did week 1, again, I think we give ourselves a great chance against these guys.
Coach, we talk about how important live reps are to teams. Is there an added, obviously, advantage that your team's been able to have 2 full games? And certainly Jackson State, unfortunately, has just had the one that early on you want to take advantage of and get out to a good start in a game like this.
Well, again, I think people say you make the biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. We obviously didn't. I think we kind of took a little step back from week 1 to 2, but this is technically their week 2 game. So they had a week to prepare for Tennessee State, didn't get a chance to play, but then they had an extra week to kind of prepare for us. So one thing it does, it gives them fresh legs. They came out of last week's game relatively unscathed as far as injuries. So I'm sure they got some guys back that might have gotten injured or nicked up against Southern Miss. So I think psychologically it's hard to determine. I don't do enough research to determine whether a week off, which basically was a bye week for them, benefits the team as opposed to playing the week before. So again, our job is to prepare as if they're going to come in ready to play. That's our mindset as coaches, is that these guys are going to be ready to play. So let's do our best job of getting our guys ready to play so that come 5 o'clock on Saturday, we give ourselves the best chance and not rely on the fact that they didn't play as an advantage for us.
Coach, this is the weekend to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the national championship team. I know the guys are young, they weren't even thought of at that time, but from a historical perspective, because you're always teaching to embrace the past and the legacy of Florida A&M football, talk about the things that you're saying and how they're being receptive in honoring the past in this championship team.
Well, I think it's very important. I think it's wonderful that we are honoring that 78 championship team. I wasn't thought of either. I'm only 37, so I was 3 years away from being born well, 2 years away, born in 80, from when that happened. But again, just for them to know about the team already. Every day they walk into the building, they see the sign at the top, 1978, 1AA national championship, and it's the very first one that ever, that anyone ever had. And so they recognize that. I think they understand that. We try to do a great job as coaches to remind them daily of the legacy that they're a part of. But I think it's amazing that this weekend we'll get a chance to celebrate Coach Rudy Hubbard, to celebrate Albert Chester, to celebrate all the guys that made history for not only 1AA football but for HBCUs. And so we plan to have those guys around this week and this weekend, and hopefully a lot of the magic that they brought to FAMU back in '78 will rub off on this 2018 team.
Coach, just one last thing for me. We're doing a little piece on your new helmets this season. We just talked about the improved safety, not just the safety, but the style, how the players like them, just kind of both sides of the coin on the new helmets.
Well, one, I got to tip my hat to our equipment manager, Dakari Calhoun. When he came in, that was one of the first things that he talked to me about. Coach, there's some new technology with helmets, and with their approval, I like to purchase some. And so one of our first fundraising initiatives was to raise enough money to secure